You know what you should do? You should follow me on Twitter at Brommer018. Link in the description. Do it now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another edition of FIFA 20 Custom Tactics series, the series where I show you how to recreate real life systems on FIFA 20 but also adapt them slightly so that they will actually work in game and be effective for you. Today we switch our focus back onto a Serie A outfit, and this time it is Lazio. That is Simone Inzaghi's Lazio team that is currently amongst the current postponement of all the Serie A games, still actually top of the table, and they're really coming to their element this season, particularly towards the latter stages of 2019 and then into the beginning of 2020 really started to hit form. And so today we're going to cover the basics of the system and how you can recreate. They're getting a lot of suggestions, so I'll take you through it today. It is a 3-5-2 system, as you can see, and it's very versatile. It was originally, since Inzaghi was there, they were very much a counter-attacking side, and that was really where they sort of created their main source of threat. However, this season they've started to really seize the initiative a bit more, something that they definitely needed to do. They needed to try and sort of play teams out more, dominate possession and set the tempo, and that's what they've sort of worked towards this year. And you'll see that in the gameplay example that we do have, of course, on screen now. You'll see me sort of varying between hitting teams on the break and also just sort of playing out from the back and looking to set the tempo that way. So first off, we do have the 3-5-2. There's a couple of changes you'll need to make. First off, with Luis Alberto, make sure that he's actually a left-sided centre midfielder, not a central midfielder. And then also with Milinkovic Savic here, you actually want to move this up to right attacking midfielder. So the reason being is that, one, you want him to get into those more advanced areas, and he's also going to be a box-to-box man as well. And so, you can replicate that more efficiently with him being in the attacking midfielder position. But also why you want him out on the right is because, he does come out drift wide occasionally and support the man on the right. Obviously, Lazzari in this case, they don't have a fullback and a winger combination. They do, of course, only have one on each side. So you want the central midfielders on each side to support, and that's the same with Luis Alberto. What you find with Luis Alberto is that whilst Johnny advances forward and gets into those more advanced areas, tries to run in behind, Luis Alberto drops off into the deeper pockets, particularly in the deep left-sided positions, and will look to instigate patterns of play from there. And so, with him on the left and him on the right, you just get that sort of support on the wing either side. Apart from that, though, you are good to go. So we can now move into the player instructions for each one. We'll start off with the keeper and we'll work our way at the field. So first off with Strakosha, get him on sweeper keeper and comes to crosses. Now, you're not going to be playing as high a line as you think. Of course, as I've already mentioned, they vary between counter-attacking and, sort of a high tempo possession based system, and so they don't play as high of a line as you might think. However, with him being sweeper keeper, in those situations where perhaps the opponent does play over the top of the defensive line and looks to run in behind with a fast striker, he does offer that extra layer of protection. And with comes to crosses, it does help you out just to try and defend those situations a little bit more effectively. They're fairly hard to deal with in some situations, so that does help you out there. Next, we can move on to the three centre backs. Now, what we're going to actually do is we're going to actually move the left-sided centre-back and the right-sided centre-back and switch them up to join the attack. Now, it doesn't work, actually, at all on this game when you did it. They'll never actually join the attack. Now, there's a couple of things I want to mention here. One thing is that when we've done previous free-back systems on this channel, we did Sheffield United's free at the back system, and we did Atalanta's, and with both of them they also have centre backs who will overlap and join the attack. Now, what some people spoke to me about in the comments is how they actually moved them out to right and left back. So with Radu here, for example, what they do is they decide to move him to left back, and then they have him on join the attack and overlap, and then it makes that more efficiently. Now, that's fine if you want to do that. However, I personally avoid doing this because what you'll find is that when they bed back into their defensive shape, these guys aren't going to get narrow enough, and they're going to be getting forward too many times, and it's going to leave you too vacant out in the open. What you'll find with Lazio is that whilst they do occasionally have a centre-back overlap and join the attack, it's a lot rarer, excuse me, than, say, the Atalanta system or the Sheffield United system. You won't find them doing it as much. And so, the examples, if you keep an eye on the gameplay throughout this video, what you'll see me occasionally do is when, the opportunity presents itself, the opponents are camped in their own half, and we feel like we can get something out of this, then you'll see me press L, B, and A with one of my centre-backs, Radu or Felipe. He'll pass it off, and then he'll run forward, and then he'll keep making that run, and as we play it up, we feed him back through, and you do find that you can create defense chances that way, particularly against an AI opponent. So that's really what we do. Even though we do have these set to join the attack, you will sort of find that to be a lot more of an efficient way of doing it. So that is it for the centre backs. Although one thing I should probably mention is interceptions. Don't put them on aggressive interceptions unless I specify otherwise. Not really any need to, and you won't find as much of an upside in terms of what it can offer compared to normal, but you will find your stamina does drain a little bit more easily, so you do want to just avoid that if you can, so keep all of them on normal. Next we can move on to the midfield, and we start off with Lucas Leiva, renowned for his defensive capabilities and being that sort of resting piece just in front of the back three in this case. So we'll look at his instructions first. First off, of course, you want him to stay back while attacking and be that ball-winning player, and that level of that layer of protection even in front of the back three. You also want him to cover the centre as well, as we already spoke about. Should be these two guys who are coming out wide, and so they'll be on cover wing, whereas Leiva here, he will cover the centre and remain in those areas. And finally, we actually want him to cut passing lanes. What we find here is that when they do occasionally press, and they don't press relentlessly, they just press in certain moments, in particular when the opposition come into their half. They do sort of a lane press, and I've sort of spoke about this in previous videos. I have my own sort of terms, a man press and a lane press. And a lane press is where you're pressing the opposition, but rather than the other people off the ball marking their men, they're instead trying to cover the areas of space, in which case they're trying to stop the passing lanes, and therefore the opposition again have to try and play around them rather than being able to play through them. And so that's what you're sort of trying to replicate here. So if you have him on cut passing lanes, of course you can't do it with everyone, but it just sort of sets a tone essentially, and it'll be important for him as that sort of defensive, deeper lying midfielder. Next up, we can switch our focus onto Luis Alberto. So he's a sort of a deeper playmaker in this system. He has, of course, in previous years, been more of a man who's been in the advanced areas, got into those pockets of space, played a proper number 10 role. But in this new system, Milinkovic-Savic has been more of that man, more getting into the box, etc. Whereas Luis Alberto drops off a bit more, and looks to spray passes and instigate passing opportunities and attacks that way. So there's not too much that you have to do here. Stay on the edge of the box is one. You don't want him getting into the box. You always want him being a sort of pivot when you're looking to recycle possession, and looking him to get as much space in deep areas as you can for him to then spray it off. As we'll have a look here, he does have some great stats in terms of passing, 89 long pass and 90 short pass. So he's very much adapted and essentially perfect for this sort of role. Other than that, of course, you want him on cover wing. That's what we spoke about. But then attacking support, keep this on balance, and the same with normal interceptions as well. And that is the closest you're going to get to being able to replicate the sort of job that he does. Next, on to Milinkovic-Savic. We mentioned how he is a box man, and you can recreate that very effectively in this. And you do that by one, having him come back on defence, and also on getting to the box. So then you've really got him, covering as much ground as possible, and he's absolutely brilliant for this role because, not only does he have the technical ability, but he's also very tall and very strong. And so when he's getting into the box in attacking areas, he offers that sort of aerial threat, whereas defensively, he can shield people off the ball, he can muscle people off the ball. Very effective in that term. In those situations. So, with Milinkovic-Savic, he's almost pretty much perfect for this role, actually. Very, very, all-rounded. And, he makes it well. And that's one of the reasons why Luis Alberto has actually had to drop off for Lazio, in real life, because Milinkovic-Savic is made for this role. And so, how do they find ways to support him, as one of their, if not their best player in terms of technical ability? And so,
Yeah, in terms of diff, obviously you've got him at RAM, so you can have him as that box-to-box man, and it'll be very effective. Next, we can move on to the two wingers, wing-backs, whatever you want to call them. They do have the same instructions, so of course you want them on comeback on defence. What you'll notice in the gameplay as well, if you've been sort of browsing at it here and there, is that don't worry that they're midfielders rather than wing-backs, because you don't have a fullback behind you. The game actually, and what it does well in this sense, is that the game realises that they don't. So when you're off the ball, they will bed back into the defensive line. So it's almost like they're wing-backs anyway. Apart from the reason that you have these as right and left midfielders rather than wing-backs, is that then they'll get into more advanced areas. They can get further forward, and you have more control over their instructions as well. For example, support on crosses and chance creation, etc. So yeah, you have them on comeback on defence, of course, but then you want them both to stay wide, and so obviously naturally they're going to be creating the width, and it's a very spaced out system as well, because of the fact obviously you've got a lot of players narrowly. You don't want to make it too compact, because otherwise it's going to be harder to create chances. So with Johnny and Lazari in this case, spreading the play as much as possible. They offer those switching options. They also offer options to sort of get out of trouble. You can play it out wide and look to go from there, and you can couple that in with getting behind as well. They're taking advantage of the space that's laid out in front of them. So with getting behind, you have that sort of emphasis on sort of dictating space, making the most of it, but also it's counter-attack as well. As we spoke about, very versatile tactic, and it used to be very much reliant on counter-attack, and they still do have that. And with them on getting behind, that's when you'll find that there's a very good emphasis in this game on counter-attack. A lot of the chances I created in the gameplay that you can see, were from counter-attacking patterns of play and situations. So, with them on getting behind, they can recreate that more effectively. And finally, with support on crosses, stay on the edge of the box or the cross. Essentially, you're looking for 3 targets in the box, and that'll be Milinkovic, Savic, and the 2 strikers. And so with these, they offer that sort of layer of protection. Let's say a cross is overhit, defence clears it out, etc. If it's out to one of the sides, you've got either of them there to recollect the ball, and then you can go again. So with them on stay on the edge of the box for this time, you do have that emphasis. So finally, we can move on to the 2 strikers. Slightly different roles depending on who and which you're going with. In this case, we're going with Carrera and Immobile. Caicedo has also featured a fair bit this season as well. First off with Carrera, purely we got him on drift wide and also come back on defence. So first of all with drift wide is that actually you'll find both of them drift wide in certain situations, and that's how you find the most effective counter-attack, particularly in FIFA, but also in real life as well, because they're just constantly trying to take advantage of the space. And also with there only being one man on each side, again, they offer that layer of support to each player. So when, for example, Johnny gets the ball, he's perhaps not as good in one-on-one situations because he's a fullback. He's a converted to that sort of wide man midfielder. So in one-on-one situations when he needs to take a man on, he won't be as effective. So with Carrera out there to support him, as well as Luis Alberto, we can sort of play off each other. They can play 1-2 situations and work openings from there. And so you've sort of got that emphasis with this, but in particular as well, you're looking for mobile strikers with energy, and Carrera does have that in abundance. On top of that, we've come back on defence as well. You only need one man who's the outball, and that will be Immobile in this case. With Carrera, again, lots of energy and very mobile. He can trap back and he can help out his midfield when he needs to, and then get up the pitch fast and quickly and efficiently, when the situation sort of requires that. Now we can move on to Immobile. So you've got obviously drift wide again, as we've already spoke about, and this time stay forward because of course he's going to be that outball when you are looking to get it up very quickly. You can play off him, hold it up, and then you work from there. But finally, you want him to get in behind as well. So rather than him dropping off in certain situations, he's always the one playing on the last man, looking to get in behind, playing off the shoulder. Because again, if we look at his stats here, he's clinical. He's absolutely just nailed on as the top finisher, and again the stats show it. He's on as a recording this, I think 26 goals in the Serie A so far, top scorer by an absolute mile, and he's always up there every season, and again this is why. And so with him playing on the last man and being just you're essentially your out and out number 9. You know, you can get that from him with him getting in behind, and he should get the most situations in terms of the most shooting situations, one-on-ones, etc., which is going to help you in terms of scoring goals. So that's it for the instructions. Now we can move on to the tactics. So first of all, we'll start off defensively. Now, we spoke about earlier how it's not an extreme pressing tactic. It only does it in certain situations. In particular, when the opposition advance into Lazio's defensive half, that's when they start pressing. And the best way you're going to recreate this is you're going to have pressure on heavy touch so that you can still pressurise them, you know, when they're misplaced passes, loose touches, etc. But then, if you change the depth here, and as we've done it onto 6th, that's going to give you a mid-block. So, you know, your defensive line is not too high and not too low. Then that means they're going to wait until they sort of come into the half before they start engaging with them. So that's the best way that you can sort of recreate that sort of defensive half press. You know, that's certainly what I've found. And as you can look at, see in the gameplay here, when you know, in the odd times when Sevilla did advance into my half, that's when we started sort of seizing the initiative and pressing them high, you know, in the half. And finally, with defensive width, have this on 4. You don't have to have it on the narrow 3 and below, because of course you've only got one sort of wing back either side, and so you've already got a lot of people in the narrow areas, the middle areas, so the opposition are already going to be looking to having to play around you anyway, so you shouldn't have to worry about that too much in terms of them playing through you with lots of space and etc. Offensively now, first off, now you actually want this on possession. So we've already spoke about how you know, they've sort of this season particularly put more of an emphasis on sort of playing it out from the back, so that's why you want it on possession. However, because we've got a lot of players on getting behind the 2 wingers, we've got Immobile as well, Carreras on balanced, and then Milinkovic Savic is getting into the box as well. That's how you have the emphasis on counter-attack. So that's how you can recreate a system where they vary between sort of possession, quick, short passing exchanges, and also looking to get forward in quick transitions. So with possession, it recreates that very effectively, as you can see by the gameplay. With width, move this up to 7. Then it's not in the actual wide areas, as you can see. When I change this to 8, then if you have a look at the top there, it does change the width overall. If you have this on 7, that's the highest you can get in that sort of mid-range width. And again, it's all about balance and variety. So, you know, with 7, you can get that, and you still got narrow options because you've got, you know, 3 centre-backs, 3 central midfielders, and 2 central strikers as well. With players in the box, put this on 6. That means you should have 3 players getting into the box. As we mentioned earlier, the 2 strikers and Milinkovic Savic as well. And then you'll have a couple of players such as Luis Alberto and the 2 wing-backs lurking in and around there to offer, you know, options in terms of recycling or regaining possession. Finally, on set pieces, move both of these up to 4. That's what we do in all of these videos, because what happens is, if you move this up to 4, it will mean you'll leave 2 men back, which is more than enough to deal with the opposition counter-attack, because on this game they only ever leave 1 man forward, but then obviously you're adding another target in the box, and corners are fairly challenging on this game. They're overly complicated and not effective enough, but with an extra man in the box you can give yourself more of an option to do that, and to become more of a threat for those situations. Same with wide free kicks as well. So if you move these up to 4, you know, you've got a stable basis. So that's about it for this system then, guys. If you do have any questions about it, please do let me know. Don't hesitate to ask any questions, and I will do my best to respond to as many as I possibly can. Keep your suggestions coming in. One thing I want to say is the one that's getting more suggestions than any at the moment is the Red Bull Leipzig tactic and the Julian Nagelsmann. Now, you know, I just want to appease you all here. You know, that will come, but it's certainly the most complicated system that I will have done yet. And because they're so varied, they use so many different formations that, you know, it's going to take a lot longer. That's going to be a really long video, like 40-50 minutes. So, you know, it's going to take a lot more work. So I'm really trying to work my way through, you know, a couple of the other really popular suggestions first before I get onto that one, because it will take a lot more time and probably be a bigger gap in between it as well. So, you know, do bear that in mind for anyone who is looking to suggest another Julian Nagelsmann Red Bull Leipzig tactic. Other than that, yeah, keep your suggestions coming in. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget to check out my FIFA 21 wishlist series that has just started. They take a lot of work, a lot of effort. So I'd really appreciate if you get the time to, you know, to give them a look, and hopefully you can get involved on that as well. And I would massively appreciate that. Other than that, though, I think we are just about finished there. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more regular gaming content, and ring the bell so that you get notifications every time I upload. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed it and want to see more. And on that note, we are going to finish it off there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.